So as we get ready to look at the final share today, which is in the Tikunei Zohar, and we're in the Hagdama of the Tikunei Zohar, Daf Aleph Amud Aleph, and we're at the very beginning, but we're slicing and dicing here, trying to get into the more meat of the secrets. And I'm reminded of my situation because I'm really out of town, and work is going on, but I'm stealing time. It's a Rebbe Nachman has this verse where he says that a person needs to be koveya eating the Torah. So that's a common phrase. Time that it usually means at fixed times when you're going to learn, like say 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. But Rebbe Nachman says you have to steal. It's lashon stealing. Sometimes, in order to be able to learn, you have to break away. You have to put yourself into it, and that's what I'm trying to do with these little, like I've got an hour here or there, and I just want to be able to learn a little bit of Torah. As long as I'm doing it, I'd like to invite you to come and learn along with me. Now, what we're doing, like I said, we're slicing and dicing the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So, in this particular phrase, he was talking about really descriptions of Netzachot Yesod. He says Zohar Kolul Chibur V'Sumak. It's a radiance that is coming through Zir Anpin, which is incorporated with white and red. Zohar the Kol Aver. Then it's a Zohar which is shining into every limb. Command the Mach B'Patish, like striking something with a hammer. The Zorek Shavivin, and it sets out sparks, the Kol Sitra, to all different kinds of everywhere. So Mahai Zohar Zaharen Kama Nishmasim. Now this is the area that we're at right now. So we're talking about from this Zohar, now we have to look, shines out, radiates out, Kama Nishmas in many different Neshamos. Now what does he mean by Neshamos? In many places in Kabbalah, where Neshama means Panemius. It means just like our bodies is an aspect of the light of God, which is manifest in us really strong. It's called the neshama. That means it's a panimi to us. So here, let's see what he means by this. Now, in order to get to the word nishmasim, it's down here. Let's read just a little bit to get the flow of the light. So we were talking about the light that fell into to Yesod. And he says, command the mach b'patish, and so like then you have sparks come out, commotion b'mach b'patish. The zark shavivin the kol sidra, and it sends out sparks to all different sides. Now I'm going to bring this down more if I can. We can see it better. So he said we're going to get into this little print. So he says v'zorik netzutzas or the kol aver, it sends out sparks of light to all the different limbs. Kach or hachasadim. So this is the same idea as the Lord of Chasadim, which is the light of the right side. A Yordim be Yesod, which comes into Yesod. Makingbo, it strikes the Yesod. Mahakol na'ases his notes says as a result of the Chasadim striking the Yesod, that it brings out sparks. This is the secret of the shining of the stars. So he says, which shines into the heavens, which is Yesod. So he says, Zohar. So we say from this radiance, Kach ma'osan the Zohar shuhu Yesod zan. Now we're talking about the Yesod Zer Anpin. Zaharim kama nishmasim me'iras kama neshamos. He says they're shining many different neshamos. The Ina Zaharim Kula Berikia, and they're all shining in the firmament. What's the firmament? Is Yesod. Shehei Me'iras La'achar Mekan be Yesod. Now, all of this that came in and struck it and produced these sparks, I thought he was going to say something else, but let's see how it comes out. They all wind up in Yesod. The Malchus of Nikra Rakia, the Yesod of Malchus, which here he says the Yesod of Malchus, not just Yesod, is Rakia. In other words, everything, all of these parts, wind up in Malchus. And after that is it, and this is the ultimate concept of them living together. This is that Zer Anpin's Yesod connects with the Yesod of the Nukva, and now all of the sparks, all of this is now in the Nukva. Now let's see what we have here in our way of notes. Let me turn this down this way a little bit, and let's see if I can get it all in. It says, so let's start with So let's start with number Kaf Hey, and then we'll run into Kaf Vav, and we'll try to get into something a little deeper. It says, "Gemuvur asod hazebe eitz chaim." It says, going on. We're going to see more about this. Kol zechavapi hazichron menachem. So everything that we're saying up this point about how it is that the striking of the chesadim in the Yesod, he says in the Yesod where? The Yesod of the Nukva produces sparks. It lights her up. So he said, Menachem haver l'chai. So he says, haber l'chai rovi. Beforish as inyan hakos apatish. So this concept of the hammer and the anvil, gam al nefilas haaretz hachasad. This also refers to the falling of the radiance that comes from the chasadim, b'yesod the zer anpin into the yesod the zer anpin, v'hischal kusam sham, and then how they get distributed in that place. Sham the shivivim ketanim into very small sparks. V'gam al etzem ha'avaras on neshamas b'yesod zah, and then also the passing through of the neshamas from the yesod zer anpin to where? The yesod and look for yesod the yichud. So ultimately, when you look at yichud, what you're talking about is the yesod zer anpin and the yesod of nukva. Now let's come on a little bit more. So he says like this, and maybe we could get it down even more because it's a very small piece. So he says a kanoida. So he says it's known like this. Echa yichud karboy bitush v'hakor. I have to think about this. How it is that the actual coupling of these two yisodas is called striking. Different kinds of language of the striking. But so niska of yavomos. So there's something over there you see in the Masech. Yevamos. He says, so right on this word, he says, Ki batisha zu he zivog v'choredis hatipa kanoided. So the concept of striking is the actual process. You have to think of the words of what they actually mean in terms of our understanding of living together. So these are the words of the Be'er L'chai Rovi. Command the machabapatish, like striking the anvil with the hammer. Haino she yesod the chura. Now he spells it out. Yesod the chura. Batish maka betoch yesod the malchus. As a result of it, it enters in and strikes as it's entering the yesod of malchus. Macha besoch yesod the malchus, and it strikes inside of the yesod of malchus. More the shefa shalo, and it brings down that shefa which is inside the whole trunk of Zer Anpin that pours into its yesod. He brings all of that shefa, the soch yesod, the nukva, and he plants it in the yesod of the nukva. V'zarek shevivim the kol sitra, and it sends out sparks everywhere. V'chatipa and misparedis, so then it's divided up. The sod shevivim the kol sitra, which is the secret of the sparks that go everywhere. Under the call the shisha kitzvahs, that he goes into the whole 6 kitzvahs. V'chatipa hu kolil, that is I guess he means the 6 kitzvahs of the nukva. It's a little hard to hear there because the yesod is down the bottom of the nukva, but somehow it does that. Hatipa kolula mikaf base asfal. Let's go back. Let's start from this word here again. For hatipa, so this tipa, which is now planted inside of the nukva, I believe that's where the sequence we're talking at now. Misparedis besod shuvivim. It splits in the spark of sparks. The call sitra, the hind of the call the shisha kitzvah. So it spreads to all the 6 kitzvahs. For hatipa hu kolila, that is the tipa has within it. Mikaf base asmian, the 22 letters. Because os va'os cholid the sitra delay. So every single one of the letters has a specific destination that it's going to go to. Kamal shakasa beis chaim. Yishar Rabich apparently Perik Tezayin. V'ayin beis chaim, he says Yishar Leah v'Rachel. Shaha oras ha'boyim yesod the tevuna. So the lights that come from the yesod of tevuna. Let's go back. We're not talking about Zer Anpin and his yesod. We're not talking about the nukva and her yesod. We're talking about the yesod of tevuna, which is that element that enters into Zer Anpin and deposits all of this. Let's go back again. He says in the Beit Chaim, Shaha oros haboyim yesod the tevuna niknasu the tok yesod the zah. They go into the yesod of zah. Makim sham b'koach. There they strike it with a certain amount of strength, of power. V'koach Sham Bekoach, and Mispazrim and Asim Sham Nitzutzim Dakim, and then what happens is that striking of the ore that's in the Yesod of Ima comes into the Yesod of Zav, strikes the Yesod of Zav, and the Asim Sham Nitzutzim Dakim, it makes very, very thin, very fine sparks. Asher Chaim Besod Kochavim Ameirim Adkan, which is actually the secret of the shining stars. That's a little bit difficult. Let's go on a little bit more. So these are different ideas and different pathways that we can understand it, because he mentioned the stars, he mentioned that idea, and exactly what it means, don't know. So he says, now we're on this phrase here where he says, up at the top, it says, Shehei Me'iris La'achar Mekan B'Yesod the Malchus, after they get into the Yesod of Zer Anpin. Let me fix this up for a second. So after they get into the Yesod of Malchus and Nikra Rakia, which is called Rakia, after they come from her into the Yesod of Zah, and here's where we're at right now. So what we can understand for the Zikron Menachem, Mitzayim, Zohar, Rakia, but Tosefes beer the Indian and an additional explanation. Ha'aras Neshama b'Rakia, with the concept of the shining of neshamas in this concept of Rakia. Now we just said that this Rakia we're talking about here is the Yesod of Malchus, which means that it's preliminary to coming towards us. So he says, Aharas Neshama b'Rakia al pi hakiseh hamelach, through the throne of the king. Shabir inman chochi machai Zohar zel Neshama. So he wants to talk about our shining. What is he saying? This is what he says. Al pia arizal, shekosach and neshamas haboim mezivuk elyon, that the neshamas that come from the upper yichud, ein nigma bishulam, their ripening, that's their maturity. Ela ad shemis averes v'chem malchus. They only come in and reach their maturity when they pass into malchus. Now we have to see what he means by misaveres. He mekabalasach miyisod zer anpin. That she, from the point in which she's receiving the Zer Anpin B'Yesoda into her Yesod, V'kol Yesod bein the Nukva bein the Duchur Nikra Rakia. Remember that the Yesod, now he says that all the Yesodas are called by the name Rakia. Rakia, let's say, like, look at us. We say Rakia, right? That's the clouds up there. You're looking up there, right? That's the concept up above, because we're in Malchus. We're in the world of gravity. So that's pulling us down. That's the nature of Malchus. The Chukamasha Kasa Bezoyer, that we have the Zohar, Vezecha Shakasa Dishmas, and the Ina Zaharim, Kuhul Berakia, as Nigba Bishula Vezarim, Adkan. Now let's go on. So he says, Lachain, the feed Derek should be Ber Lachai Rovi, Harakia Hu Yesod the Devuna, the concept of Rakia here now means the Yesod the Tavuna. We're talking about Yesodas or Lashon Yesod, Lashon Rakia. So not to really try to get the understanding, he says, go over the Eitz Chaim and Charleah and Rachel, that we mentioned that before. Sham Mavur Hativ Inyan the Rakia. There it really explains what's playing with the idea of Rakia. Shahu Yesod, which is also the Yesod the Tavuna. Why? Shemal Vish al Muach Adas Dazah, which is clothed inside of the Das Zerah Ben Kenaida. V'gam Kavuim Chama V'Levaina Kocha B'Mazalas. But not only that, but also all the rest that we see, and this is an Indian I really don't know anything about, so my first time looking at this. V'bo Kavuim Chama V'Levaina V'Kocha. Let's read it again. He says that the concept of Rakia Shuhu Yesod Devuna, that is Bina, shall Malvish al Moach Hadas the Zer Anpin, which is inside of the Mochad of Dash of Zer Anpin. Ubo Kavuim Chama, and in that place, in the Das of Zer Anpin, is the establishment of the Chama, the sun and the moon, and all the stars and their planets. Chama V'Levana Heim Zun. So that's what Zun is. Sheyonkim Yesod is that feed off of this Yesod. And Chesadim v'Gavuras, because the Chesadim build up Zer Anpin and the Gavuras build up the Nukta. So that's the first part. That's the sun and the moon. Because these aspects which are shining into the Yesod of Zer Anpin, the stars themselves, the light of the stars, comes from the illumination of the Chasadim Sheyordim that go down into the Yesodos, Shemisnotitzim Sham that spark out over there, Sham la'achar shenaflu b'Yesod until the time that they fall into the Yesod. Now he's going to give us the words themselves and see if it helps us out to understanding a little bit better. He said, "V'chakochavim heim orus chasadim miyotzim v'sham." So the kochavim are the stars that come out of this striking of this striking. The notlim toch Yesod dezah, and the star that is that I guess he means that they come out from the Yesod of Ima or Tavuna here, and go into the Das Zer Anpin, and as they're starting to spread, he seems to be thinking, so he's Yotzim Misham, but Noflin the Toch Yesod Dezah, and they ultimately go through the spheres of Zer Anpin and wind up in his Yesod. Makim Sham Bekoach, so there they strike the Yesod with strength, Mispazrim and Asin Tzutzakim, and they spread out, and they make little tiny sparks. Which is the secret of the Kochav Me'irim. So here he's saying that the definition of that, and then he's apparently offering maybe more than one view of this idea, is that the concept comes originally, the tipa coming from Ima all the way into the Yesod of Zeranpin, for her Yesod is, and striking it, producing sparks. Makim Sham Bekoach and Befazrin and Asnitz Tzakim, Asher Heim Yesod Kochav in the Me'irim Adkan. Now the Maslos, the planets themselves, are the sparking of the Gevuros. What's with them? Shenoplos Gam Heim Yesod. They come out of Das Zer Anpin, and they go also into the Yesod Heim Sham, so that makes the planet. Because of a Rav, this is what the Rav says as he goes on. He says those who really get the righteousness of the people going the proper way, and which is always talking about Yesod. He says, why? Ki Metzadiki Rabim Shorshim Min Yesod Nikrat Tzaddik, because the root of the Tzadiki Rabim, the people that work to bring the congregation into more Kedusha, the Shorshim Min Yesod, their root is really from Yesod, a Nikrat Tzaddik, which is called Tzaddik. V'heim Mekablem Ma'aras HaKochavim Shel Asadim Shebesoch Yesod. So therefore, they receive the glow, the illumination, the radiation, the radiance of the stars, the Chesadim, they receive the Yesod Me'irim Kamosim, so that the planets also shine from the Gevurah. So we'll do one more. Let's see. So now we see from the words of the Rizki, Shorish Nishmo Sehem Shel Metzadiki Arabim. What is the root of the Neshamos, that chelik of Kedusha that comes from the people that are in charge of trying to straighten out the generation? Shem Amaskilim, which are really the learned people. Oh, the Sechem Dorish Rav Rashbi comes. So it's because of these people that the Rashbi is explaining. Heim Yesod Zer Anpin. These are tzaddikim that come from the Yesod of Zer Anpin. V'sham Heim Mekablim as Ha'aras HaChasadim, and that's the place where they feel they receive the light of the Chasadim and Dikraim Kochavim, which are called stars, Ume'imri Kamosim, and shine like them. Al Derek Madech Siv, look, we read like this, Khan. Because Zohar Rakia, like the radiance of the Rakia, which is Yesod. Behind them, it's Tzadiki Arabim, that is the Tzadikim. Me'irim Kazohar Rakia, they shine like the radiance of the heaven. And we're going to stop there. This is Baruch Fleischman. I'm at the Tikunei elevator call up. Thank you for being with me today.